I made reference in a previous live about talk money and got money. Let me elaborate about that because some of you got what I was saying and some of you may not know what I'm talking about. Talk money is money that you talking about having. Money that you anticipate on having. Money that you think you're going to have based on proposed evidence, presented evidence, but you don't quite have it in your hands yet. It hasn't showed up in your bank account. It's not in your possession, okay? What's in your possession is the got money, okay? And the problem that we have in our economy as a whole, and I'm talking about the world, is that the world economy is running on talked money, if you think about it. Credit system, deficits, global government, it's talked money. It's money that's talked up that does not physically exist. It's money that is being spoken into existence, but nobody physically has their hands on, just to get by in order to exchange goods and services. Now, like I said before, I'm from the old school, and I had to learn this as a grown person because coming up, I came up through an economy that eventually conformed itself to talk money. Talk your way into a credit line. Talk your way into a loan. Talk your way into borrowing. Talk your way into, and don't get me wrong, there are situations where you have to use credits and loans and borrowing because there are big ticket items where you may not have the cash, don't get me wrong, okay? Because you may not be sitting on the cash, excuse me, at the time, okay? So there are times where you need to do that. But when you have small ticket items where you could just wait just a little while longer. See, this is where the problems come in. And I think that's where we have problems as consumers. See, it was okay back in the day to have credits and loans and things. You know, my parents and grandparents, when they got credit and loans, they did it for big ticket items where they knew they didn't have $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 to buy a home. They knew they weren't sitting on that type of cash. They knew they had to go get credit for that, okay? They knew they had to get loans for that. They knew they weren't sitting on $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to get a car. You know, they used credit and loans for that, okay? That's when it was appropriate. When you had that type of item that was a big ticket item that you knew that you needed, then yes, you had to get that type of, you had to use talk money. But then at some time, and I don't know if it happened in the 80s or the 90s or whatever, for some reason it leaked into simple consumable items that are not going to have much value in 6 months. Simple things that we use every day. Things like clothing and shoes and electronics and things like that. Things that back in the day where people could have just waited a little while longer and just paid cash for. It got to the point where the prices have gotten so astronomically high that they started extending credit lines for these things. And now it's like people are just using credit for simple things like going out to eat. Using credit just to go fill up the gas tanks. The economy has gotten so out of control, people using credit cards to go to the grocery store. You know, that money doesn't even exist. They don't even have that in their possession nowadays. People are just using that because they just don't have it. People have to do what they have to do. And a lot of them probably haven't even seen more than $1,000 cash in their hand at one time in years because they've used plastic. They have no choice because they're living in a debt-driven society. So now they have to rely on credit scores and credit lines and that type of thing. Governments have to have credit ratings and credit standing. So we're borrowing from this area and that area. And we have to have a good relationship with certain entities and certain governments just in order to live, in order to have clothing, in order to have transportation and power and fuel and consumer goods. But that's another subject to talk about later as far as the global economy. But when you're dealing with talk money on a more personal level, there are some people that I know. They might be involved in something called, where they're expecting some money. They could be looking for a settlement, like an inheritance or a lawsuit. And they're so excited about getting the money, but they don't have the money yet. And they're already in their mind spending it all up. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with planning how you're going to spend your money. There's a difference. Plan how you spend your money, yes. But don't have it in your mind that you're going to go ahead and just tell everyone in the street and announce to the world that you're going to spend this and spend that and be foolish about it. And you have no idea for sure if you're going to get it. If you haven't received any confirmation in black and white that you are going to get X amount of dollars, and when you're going to get X amount of dollars, and from whom you're going to get X amount of dollars, then you don't know if you're going to get X amount of dollars. And that's the problem. So for me, if I ever was in a situation where I was promised X amount of dollars, and it was just told to me, I don't go by that, people. I've had people say, oh, well, you're entitled to a refund of X, Y, Z. That's nice. But until I see ink on paper in the form of an email or a letter or something explaining to me this was processed at such and such time, you're expected to receive in this form by this date in this amount, until I see that in the form of an email or a document, I don't believe it. I can't go by anyone's words when it comes to finances anymore. Back in the day, many, many years ago, it was okay to do a verbal contract as far as dealing with finances. You could listen to somebody else's words when they promise you money. Nowadays, unfortunately, people, you cannot do that. You cannot listen to someone who's going to promise you a whole bunch of money and sit there and wait for them to give it to you. If you do come across someone who does give you money when they promise to give it to you, hold on to them with a vice grip, because they are a rare breed. But especially when it comes to business. Talk money and got money are not the same anymore, people. Anything that is promised to you in the form of a good or service and it involves a payment, make sure that you have something, an email document, an invoice. I don't care how long the conversation goes, and this includes telephone conversations. I had a conversation not too long ago with an entity. This was a government entity involving taxes. And they said, oh, well, you may be entitled to a refund. That's nice. But I did not take that to heart. You could say whatever you want to say on the phone. The representative could say whatever they want to say on the phone. But until I log into the account and I see what is said to me in writing, I do not believe what is told to me on the phone. I don't care. So until it says in my profile under my account, until I see it, what is said to me means nothing. And you should think the same. And if I am told that I'm supposed to receive X amount of dollars, until I see when it was processed and how it was processed and the way it was processed and when I'm supposed to expect it and the amount, until I see that in writing in some way, form, or fashion, in the form of an email or on an account statement, in whether it's in writing or online or something in writing, I cannot believe it. And it's not mine until it is in my account or in my mailbox or in my hands. And only until then it's only talked money. It's not got money until I got it. So until then, I hope this helps someone. Peace to you all.